fact, I was so determined to give the special counsel what he needed, I went forward with a 5-hour in-person interview over 2 days on October the 8th and 9th of last year, even though Israel had just been attacked by Hamas on the 7th and I was very occupied. It was in the middle of handling an international crisis.
So that is President Biden. Another, by the way, an underreported thing. What a terrible judgment. October 7th happens, the worst massacre that happened to the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And he's not blowing off Robert Hur's meeting to focus on trying to maintain some type of world peace or do best they can to support our key ally. Joining us now is Dean Phillips, Congressman from Minnesota running for President of the United States. Congressman, your take on the president's on the Robert Hur report.
Mm-hmm. Well, Brian, good to be with you. I hope, like most Americans, it's sad to see now a former president who is in front of the Supreme Court and facing indictments, and now a current president who clearly mishandled classified documents. And to read the report, as anybody can, and I hope you do, it basically says that he likely committed a crime, but they didn't want to prosecute him because he's a well-meaning elderly man with a fading memory. And reading that as an American is awfully tough for reasons I hope everybody can understand. So I think it's a sad day for America. It's just another reason why I think President Biden should serve out his term and then pass the torch to a new generation of leaders. And I think that's why 70% of the country, Brian, is saying the same thing.
But now they have to listen to you, Congressman. You've been saying that. You say, I vote with him. I had a fundraiser for him. But this is not the same guy.
Yeah. Well, he's a good man. People can differ, of course, have different perspectives on policy. But what really troubles me is that there's a culture in Washington of silence, ignorance, and people so focused on protecting their next reelection that they don't tell Americans the truth. And it's not unique to one side or the other, but I just happen to be the only one saying the quiet part out loud.
Yet,
rest assured,
has anything
everybody
changed,
in Washington knows.
Congressman, has anything changed since this came out?
Sure. I've had my phone is blown up with messages from colleagues, surely on both sides of the aisle, but yes, Democratic colleagues who all know better. I won't name them, of course, but yes, of course, Brian, because anybody who has their eyes open can see what's going on. And I think it's a shame. I think it's embarrassing. And I think it's sad. And I think it's a shame for a president who could cement a legacy, pass the torch, and do what's best for the country. It's not just about him, and that's the problem in our country right now. We have cults of personalities around individuals instead of around principles. And I'm trying to encourage center-right and center-left Americans, Brian, to join together, the exhausted majority, and get our act together because we are increasingly looking like a laughingstock around the world, and I won't have that.
Senator Marco Rubio said on social media that the special counsel decided not to bring charges against Biden because they believe he has age-related dementia. Is he wrong in making that conclusion?
Well, Brian, neither you nor I are a physician, and if we were, we've never attended to him, so I can't opine on that. But we all see with our own eyes his speeches and the decline. He's an 81-year-old man, remembering that he would be serving until January of 2029.
Amazing.
If he was reelected. And by the way, you know how I feel about former President Trump, too. I think both men are at a stage in life where neither should be serving in the presidency. Right. I think it's just as simple as that. And I know most Americans feel the same. What I'm troubled by is a political system, a duopoly, Brian, that is increasingly only elevating people who are not well appreciated nationally.
But if Donald Trump was 50 years old, you also didn't think he should be president, right?
Well, we have a very, I will say that I have a very unique, I shouldn't say unique, I have a very clear perspective on his character, and I think character matters. I have a great affection for a lot of Republican principles, progressive principles. That's not the issue. The issue is people and principle, and unfortunately, what I've seen is quite devoid, but that's my opinion. I know shared by many, but I'm not here to litigate that. Here's
an anonymous quote from a Democratic House member. It is a nightmare. It weakens President Biden electorally, and Donald Trump would be a disaster and an authoritarian. For Democrats, we are in a grim situation. What I've noticed is the press is coming from CNN. It's coming from CBS. So I'm wondering, do you expect more people to speak out and maybe, if not join you, jump in themselves?
Well, Brian, I did watch some of MSNBC's coverage last night, and not surprisingly, it was all focused on a political hit job, not the merits of the case, not what is in front, not what's in front of people's eyes. And frankly, when millions of people get their news from a single source, that determines what people are seeing. So I hope the answer is yes. If people don't wake up soon, we're going to have a real problem, and there is still time. So everybody knows this, Brian. This is like those Air Force pilots that occasionally sight things in the sky that they can't explain. And these are esteemed, good people who know what they're doing. And the minute they say they saw something unusual, the country thinks, "Are you a little off?" Well, that's how it's felt like for me for a long time. Seeing something so clear, so obvious, surrounded by people who simply want to ignore the truth. And I think we got to fix that fast because that's a dangerous disease.
So here's what this is what CBS had running. This is what they thought about Biden's presser when he named El-Sisi the president of Mexico. Cut 16.
Perception is reality, though, when it comes to the voters. This year is an important year. And when he has these moments, and we were talking about this off air, Tony, I mean, this is something that is glaring moving into this year.
And to be holding a press conference about your mental acuity and to mix up Egypt and Mexico is not even in the conversation. No questions about Mexico. It's not the topic of the press conference.
Exactly.
It's not a good look.
No, and it was all about the southern border of Gaza, so he went to Mexico. Who among us hasn't screwed up those two countries before? But we're not president. And that's the real concern that they have at the White House that they're going to have to prove.
Oh, please. Southern border of Gaza? Yeah, I always think Mexico. So, I mean, that's a little bit what's going on. But bottom line is, if the polls show Trump up by 10, does something change, Dean Phillips?
Well, I've been arguing, Brian, for many months now. Just all you have to do is look at numbers. Look at approval numbers, the lowest in presidential history. President Biden is 20 points below Jimmy Carter in January of 1980. He's 5 points below former President Trump at the same stage. Every poll shows him losing in battlegrounds. I come from the business world, Brian, but I cannot imagine that politicians eventually don't open their eyes to the truth based on the data. It's only going to get worse. I don't think yesterday is going to improve the president's standing. So if Democrats want to win, there's clearly a path. And if Democrats favor losing, it looks like that's the path that's been chosen so far. But I intend to rectify that as much as I possibly can.
How long are you staying in the race?
I'm going to stay, Brian. It is an imperative to stay in the race to the convention. There is no other Democratic candidate running in the primary right now. And as evidenced by yesterday and the past number of days, I think it's important that the United States of America has a 55-year-old, well-meaning candidate with a good memory in the race as well as President Biden. And
it's good to know that quality people who've had all the success you've had in your life want to still give back to the country. And as a Democrat, you are now the alternative to Joe Biden. And it looks like the Democrats need an alternative. Congressman Dean Phillips, thanks so much.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Have a great day.
You got it. Brian Kilmeade Show. Keep it here. Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.